Hi, my name is Rafael. I'm one of the lecturers here at Yoobee. I specialize in 2D animation, and today I will be teaching you pretty much just the basics of traditional animation in digital format using Adobe Animate. Okay, so first and foremost, what you need to do is obviously open up Adobe Animate, which I have opened up right here, right now. Let me just slide that on. There you go. There you go. It's going to be pretty easy and quick in terms of the process and how I do it. But so basically, this is Adobe Animate. You've got the basic tools over here. So what we're going to be using today is pretty much just the brush tool, the timeline, and some of the properties in here. So first and foremost, what we're going to be animating is pretty much a ball going from point A to point B, just to get the full gist of how to do traditional animation from start to finish using Adobe Animate. Cool. All right, so let's start now. So first off, I'm on my first frame over here. So what I'm going to do is make a circle. Right. So for any one of you who know animation, what I'm doing right now is just doing a traditional post-to-post animation as opposed to straight ahead where you pretty much just draw one frame after another. With post-to-post, I do have to set up my keys first. So this is my point A, and later on I'm going to put my point B in here. But before I do that, I'm going to rename my layer into rough animation. There you go. Yep, that's fine. I've got that sorted. Now on frame 10, I'm going to put my point B. There you go. I'm going to turn on my onion skin to keep the direction consistent. As you can see, onion skin had been turned on. Yep. So that was point A. Now I'm going to point B. There you go. So you've got this short animation over here, point A, point B. Now I'm going to be putting in the breakdown, which is pretty much the middle point of this whole animation. A breakdown is pretty much where it's going in terms of animation. So a breakdown could be in this direction, it could be in that direction, or in this direction, however you want to put it. But as long as you put the breakdown, that pretty much just sets in the direction of which the animation is going. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my onion skin again to see my point A, point B. Draw in my breakdown. And voila. If I turn off my onion skin and preview my animation, there you go. So now I'm going to fill in the in-betweens, which is pretty much the drawings in between from here to the breakdown and from breakdown to the last position. So there you go. F7, turn on my onion skin. There you go, a bit of squash and stretch going on over here. So as you can see, when the ball goes from point A to point B, there's a bit of a squash and stretch going on. Over here in the breakdown, it's really stretched out. Cool. And then I would go to my next in between. And voila, I'm just gonna lessen the frames over here, Shift F5, and expose more of the last position, F5. So as you can see over here, we've got this full-on animation of a ball going from point A to point B. There you go. As you can see over here, I'm animating on twos. That means there are 2 frames of exposure per drawing as opposed to ones where it's pretty much 1 frame of exposure per drawing. So that's why it looks crispy. Cool. So I'm finished with my rough animation. Now my next step would be to do the cleanup. So to do the cleanup, I'm going to be putting a new layer on top of this rough animation. There you go. And apply the keys in consequential order based on the rough animation that I did. F7, 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 F7. There you go. Now I'm gonna fade the opacity of that rough animation a bit so that I can work on my cleanup. So I'm gonna right click on that layer, go to properties, and lower my opacity to maybe 30%. A bit more, 20%. And there you go. Now I'm gonna lock that up and concentrate on doing my cleanup. So, brush, I'm gonna use a different ink for my cleanup. Voila, there you go. Now, generally with cleanup, you gotta take your time with this, but unfortunately we're pressed with it. So I'm gonna just really do a fast cleanup on this thing. So I'm adjusting my stroke size to a bigger one, 10. There you go. There you go. Erase the excess portion. Perfect, but like I said, we're pressed with time with this whole tutorial thing. Go, as you can see, I'm doing cleanups for my first position and last position as it should be in terms of cleanup as well. Same method. Start, finish, anything in between. There you go. It's my breakdown. So I'm making sure right now that everything's closed up for later on when I fill in the colors. There you go. And then I'm working on my in-betweens right now. There you go. And I'm gonna clean that up a bit. There you go. And my last in between. Oops. There you go. And there you go. I've got my cleaned up animation. It's not as cleaned up as I want it to be, but we're pressed for time. So I'm gonna rename this layer cleanup. Good, there you go. What I'm gonna do right now is convert my rough animation into a guide so that when you preview it, the rough animation is not gonna be there with the preview. See? Cool. So up next is color. So when I do my coloring in Adobe Animate, I generally just duplicate the cleanup layer and just fill in with the bucket tool. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate my cleanup layer, put it under the cleanup in terms of the hierarchy of layering. Cleanup generally should always be on top. So color, there you go. I'm going to pick red for my red ball. I'm going to lock up on the cleanup layer so that I don't accidentally fill my color on that layer. And there you go. Fill it in, fill it in, fill it in, fill it in, fill it in. All right, so I've got my color over here. Now, next step for me is to put in the shadow. So simply duplicate again the cleanup layer, put it under the cleanup layer, and rename it to shadow. Unlock it. There you go. So generally when I do my shadows, I mess with the alpha of my brushes over here and I pick black. So once I pick my color that I want for my shadow, I bring down the alpha to 50%.